I'm CK. I wanted to intro this video a little differently because I'm doing something a little different. This is not the full build of the LED Ferris wheel. This is excerpts, real-time surface mount soldering. I've had a request from some people to do real-time on the soldering instead of sped up or edited, so I decided to clip this one out and just have the soldering parts. So there's not going to be there's not going to be much dialogue. It's primarily going to be the video of doing the surface mount soldering. Hope you enjoy it, and please let me know in the comments if you find this useful. So we're going to be putting the microcontroller. Let me get my solder pad in. Microcontroller goes right here. And the first thing I'm going to do is get some very skinny solder. .025 of an inch, so it's the thinnest solder I comfortably can use. Now, the way I do these, and let me zoom the top camera in a little bit more. I'm going to be working right here. So first thing I'm going to do is put a little bit of solder on one pad. That's actually too much. There we go. A little bit of solder on that one pad. Now, so again, we've got one pad soldered. Let me grab the IC out. Now it's got a little dot here, and there's a little dot on the circuit board, so we know where things go. Let me try not to flip it around too much. Now, hopefully I won't get my head too much in this shot, but it's tough because I need to look downwards at this. So I'm going to make sure the legs are all aligned with their appropriate pads. And I'm going to heat that little bit of solder, and it dropped down. So that leg is now firmly affixed. As you can see, it's not going anywhere. Now I'm just double checking that all the legs are aligned with the pads, and they are. Now, this is a step you can choose to do or not choose to do. I do, because I'm not always the steadiest of hand. So I'm going to take some of this flux and put it down here without disturbing the chip too much, because you can bend the pins if you're not careful. I'm going to put a bunch of flux down here. And this is primarily to keep from having solder bridge between these pins. This solder provides, this flux provides a little bit more of a barrier for the solder, as well as making a good joint. Now that's all I needed, just that little bit. And the little bit I put on there may actually be too much in itself. So, we'll do one leg at a time. And as you can see, I'm going between the legs and dropping a little solder down. I think that's all of those legs. Let me double check. Yep, they look all down. I'm gonna do this first one again. There we go. That's beautiful. Now we'll do the other side. And I'm making sure I'm still in this frame. Come on, that one. That one didn't cooperate quite as beautifully. And this flux is just keeping the solder from jumping from leg to leg and bridging. And there we go. That's the surface mount part. And now we're going to do all the resistors. And there are, I believe there's 16 of them. These are the resistors for the control current for the LEDs. So they go there, 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 there. So in the manner of assembly line, I'm going to go ahead and again back the camera off a little bit more and put a dab of solder on one of each pad. I'll probably speed up playback on this. One pad soldered on each of them. Now we'll get the resistors out of their strip. I think there are more than 16 here. Let me count. Because if there are, I want to cut off the ones I'm not using. Yeah, it looks like there are 2 more. They gave us 2 spares. And I'm just going to cut those 2 spares off and put them over here because, again, that goes with my spare parts bin. Save every spare part that they include with the kit, lads and lassies, because there will come that day when you say, man, I need a 1000 ohm surface mount resistor right now. Oh, I remember I had 2 spares from a kit. I'll go grab it. We'll be great. Instead of having to wait for something to come from Mauser or wherever your preferred electronic supplier is. And there they all are in the bin. Double checking the carrier to make sure. And it's very likely I didn't count correctly either, so those 2 spares I cut out, I may be using later. Now we're going to lay them all on. Now the other thing that's true, gosh, these pads are really huge. The other thing is true is you don't have to have the value side of the resistor up. I'm just doing it because I can. Resistor work just fine if it doesn't. Now, I did have one person ask me why I don't pre-tin both sides of the resistor or capacitor or LED pads and then just go boom boom and get both ends of the resistor or capacitor onto the board. Well, I tried that, and the reality for me at least is if you have a ball of solder on both pads, it's not as easy. It kind of rocks the other solder ball, interferes with things being flat on the board. So doing one at a time, one side at a time, is the best way to do this. For me at least. You may have better skills than I, so try it either way. Just you're watching somebody do it this way successfully. Yeah, but definitely, if I haven't said this before, if you're going to do surface mount, invest in some good tweezers. I did a video on tweezers a while back. It's on the channel, where I talk about various types and show you the ones I use and where I bought them. You don't obviously have to do that. It's just a starting point. But having a good set of tweezers will be critical for your success in surface mount work. The other thing that happens when you're doing this with tweezers is your tweezers get flux on them after a while. So you have to wipe them off every now and again, or else the components, these little resistor guys, will stick to them. I'm trying to get this one to flip over because I do want all the values to be up, but that's only because I'm doing a video. If I were doing it for a project I wasn't video recording, I probably wouldn't care. The way I find, as you can see there, the way I flip the resistors over so the value is up is I simply drop them from a little bit of space above the surface. Two more. And look at that, I actually counted correctly. Arithmetic and counting are not my strong suits. Now, we'll solder the other end of all 16 of these resistors. And that's all the resistors. Now it's time to work on the LEDs. So as you can see from this diagram, for the red LEDs we're going to go to there, go all the way across, and to there in kind of a Z shape. And we'll do the same for green, yellow, and blue also. I could mix them up. That might be kind of fun. Nah, I'll just do it stock. So let's flip this over. And we'll get, we may as well do the red ones first. Doesn't much matter, but here's the strip of red ones. Let me move this out of the way for a second. I'm going to dump these all into the bin. If I can get the plastic off. And every time I complain about that, I think to myself, the assembly machines that these were made for are laughing at me. They're saying, hey buddy, shut up. This packaging is made for us, it's not made for you, so it works just fine. Now I didn't count these LEDs, so I don't know if they gave me extra or not. But we'll sort that out later. There, they're all out of the carrier. Now I'm going to do one thing real quick. Just we did a test of the regular LEDs, but you can do the same thing. Oops. You can do the same thing with surface mount LEDs. Let's grab one of them up. And there's a diagram that shows you which side is the positive. And which side is the negative in the instruction book, which is good. So we will pass a little bit of current through here. Backwards, I got it backwards because I flipped it over. Pass a little bit of current through here and... oh, I'm not on the right setting. And we'll pass a little current through here and glows red. Good. So we know that that LED is good. I'm not going to check all of them. And that, by the way, means that the line is towards the negative side and the crossbar is towards the positive side. So on the PCB, as I think I mentioned yesterday, let me put that back in the bin so I don't lose it, the negative side goes to the side where the silkscreen has the corners clipped. These positive side, nice sharp corner, negative side has the corner clipped a little bit. So what I'm going to do is do what I did with the resistors and lay down my little dots of solder. If I can do it without being too much of a spaz. So I'm probably going to speed up playback on this. So we've got our Z shape. Now I'll do a couple of these. But it is pretty much the same as the resistors and the capacitors we've done. So I'll put the LED here. These are actually a little bit bigger than the resistors and capacitors. Heat that up, tuck it right in there, and since I'm going to probably skip a bunch of this, I'll do this other end. Now, one thing I do want to point out here before I move on, as you can see, the negative cathode sides on this leg and this arm go that way. Now on this arm, they're on the other side, even though as I reverse it, they'll be on this side. But just be careful, because you'll be switching around, because it's a circle, and you don't want to mess it up. Now, the way I flip surface mount components is I don't try and flip them. I don't try and use the tweezers to actually roll them over. I bounce them. I drop them from 3 or 4 millimeters above the surface that I'm working on and just let them drop. And they might land up the same way again, but then you just drop them again eventually. Oops. Surface mount guys can squirrel around on you. And again, I mentioned the cross with the long leg pointing towards the cathode. On the front of the LED, where you can see where the tip of my soldering iron is, there's a green stripe also, which indicates where the cathode is. So that's going to be it. I'm going to be doing 100 of these of varying colors, and there won't be much to talk about. Okay, so I changed my mind. I will do one whole series on camera, though I'll probably speed it up, but you can see how it goes together. And again, I've done the red, yellow, and green, and now I'm going to be doing the blue ones. So again, dab of solder on one leg on one pad of each. Heat the solder, slide the LED in, then solder the other end. So here we go.